The Canadian Agri-Food Policy Institute is driving bold policy solutions for a resilient Canadian agri-food system and building a stronger future for Canadian agriculture. Visit capi-icpa.com to discover how.
Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio. We're at BASF's headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina, joined right now by Neil Bentley, who is the VP of Market Management with BASF. How are we doing today, Neil?
Good, Sean. Good to see you today.
Okay, so VP of Market Management. Okay, what is that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm responsible for our North American strategy, portfolio management for our crop protection business and our seeds and traits business, and also looking at new technologies, digital farming as an example, sustainability activities, and scouting around the edges for new crop protection technologies and other digital areas where we might plug into our North American business to really help farmers continue to drive innovation and opportunity.
Now, there's a lot of exciting stuff in there. Very cool.
Yes.
You're on the leading edge, trying to see the trajectory of where everything's headed. The reality is right now, right here, it's a pretty tough farm economy out there. How do you combine that excitement with what some of the financial realities is for the farmer right now?
Well, you're right. I think that what we're seeing across the ag economy is challenging, right? Currently, commodity prices are more depressed than they've been in the past few years. We see an increase in costs in some areas for farmers. And I think farmers are really looking at their balance sheets, especially as they're moving into 2026 and building their plans. And we look at that excitement for innovation because we're trying to help farmers do more with less. We're trying to bring innovation to the table that really sweats the resources that they have, that allows them to earn a positive ROI on everything they do. An example of this, if you think about digital farming, you'd say, well, hey, there's maybe a new expense that a farmer might not want, might really challenge in the current environment. But if you look at it the other way and say, well, what I can do is help make sure that the decisions that you're making on your farm are actually going to have a positive outcome, are actually going to have an ROI. So I have more confidence in the decisions I'm making. Then all of a sudden you start looking at those innovations and those new areas as opportunities for improving your ROI, not necessarily an expense. We want to shift that from expense to investment and return on investment.
Yeah, on that topic specifically, one of the things that I talk to a lot of the audience about, or try to get feedback on, is a lot of times we'll think about, okay, I don't want to do that this year because of the upfront cost, instead of evaluating based on, okay, so there's the upfront cost, but if I'm getting a positive return, if I'm spending $20 an acre, I'm getting 60, or I should keep that, versus spending $20 an acre and I'm only getting 10 back. Well, yeah, you should cut that out. Product specific. There needs to be more tools and ability to do that for the farmer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the R&D background comes in, especially, across the states and into Canada. We have our research and development areas really, plugged into those climatic zones, into those soil zones, to make sure that the things that we're doing are actually going to pan out on a farmer's field. So you're getting that local data, you're getting that local InVigor, seed result, so how that performance is. We're building that confidence, and our team's able to represent those things to you that are really going to make a difference in your farm.
So in this kind of a market, do you cut back on some of that innovation spend, or is this when you pedal down and forge ahead?
Well, innovation is such a long-term a time frame. It's the world is changing in front of us each and every day, but we have to make plans over the next 10 or 15 years to develop those ideas and those compounds for the future. And so it's something that we have to do continuously, and it's something that we will continue to do continuously. We invest about 11% of every dollar earned back into research and development.
Revenue or net profit?
Revenue, back into research and development. And so we expect to continue to do that so that we can bring the new seed technology, the new trait technology, a long pipeline of opportunities, and new crop protection and digital initiatives to the table so that farmers continue to have those options that they're going to need. That just because the financial world is a little bit more challenging doesn't mean that Mother Nature isn't changing, what's happening out in the field. And so we need to make sure that we're prepared for that.
Well, and massive consequences if you back off of research and development now. Those consequences are not felt now. It'll look better on the income statement for the company, but those impacts are felt 10, 20 years out on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely, and those are the plans that we're making, and that's the anticipation of where the market's going that I have a lot of fun with. It's I don't have a crystal ball, but I do try to utilize all of the forecasting tools and systems and artificial intelligence and bring that to the table to be able to anticipate where we're going, so that we can anticipate what's going to happen and really have those solutions for the farmers. If you think about weed resistance in the late 1990s, and I say I'm from the 1900s, so I feel like I'm, super old. But when you get into that, you'd say, well, hey, when Roundup Ready technology in the States was introduced, nobody was talking a lot about weed resistance. But we were part of developing the first herbicide technology in Kixor, which is heat in Canada, as a compound that was going to combat weed resistance, and that was launched in 2009. But looking back, you'd say, well, who was crazy enough to continue to develop a herbicide when everybody said there wasn't going to be herbicide resistance?
We would never need another herbicide.
We would never need another one again. But yet that happened, and here we are today. More complex herbicide recommendations go into every acre than we've had in the past 20 years, and this is where farmers need the support of companies who continue innovation and R&D efforts.
So on the innovation planning and strategy, how far out are you working?
Yeah, so we're working on a 10-year time horizon for our crop protection business and a 20-year time horizon on our seeds and traits business.
Okay, and seed and traits being longer because of regulatory approval, or why the difference?
Yeah, the seeds and traits regulatory timeline is quite a bit longer, just to get the total global approach for all of the trades and whatnot, and so this just takes a bit longer in time.
Okay, so let us pull us behind the curtain here, under the hood, so to speak, of BASF. Where are we headed? What are some things that we're maybe doing now that maybe we won't do, or you think that are going to be added to the way we do? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, and I think that comes back to this idea of systems. We've spent a lot of time talking about individual indications and how you can individually use a herbicide or individually use a fungicide or a seed trait. And what we continue to see is we have to bring those systems together, and we have to optimize the inputs all the way across. So we're looking at that integration as we move forward, and that integration having secondary benefits. So if you think about where we're going, sustainability is going to be a much larger topic as we move into the future. Whether we're talking about nitrogen management in Canada, or we're talking about lower carbon scoring in other parts of the world, thinking about how a system works together to bring not just a high yielding crop to the table, but also measuring what the carbon intensity or the nutrient utility was of that crop will be important for consumers in the future and for those industries that look to decarbonize. And so these are areas that we will continue to work across all of those efforts, but what it really comes back to is how it all connects.
Yeah. What impact does like a See and Spray, where we're targeted, there's the weed, kill the weed, instead of spraying over a broad acre on every single piece of the farm. What impact does that have on the company? Because people would say, well, selling less herbicide, not good for you. Do you see it that way, or what's your thoughts?
We think we're very much in support of the See and Spray technology, and we have a joint venture with Bosch we call One Smart Spray, where we're actually invested in that area. And so this is something that we see as a future technology that will be very important, whether you're looking at See and Spray or drones or other precision techniques. That's what maximizing your ROI looks like. And so a lot of the applications for herbicides in this example have always been, with that Roundup Ready world that we talked about, were made in these post-application systems, right? And so where we see See and Spray having an impact is in those post-application systems where we may be able to use less herbicide in those later applications. But the true benefit is reinvesting a portion of those resources back into early residual herbicide applications and ensuring that your crop is clean from the very beginning. That's a really important thing, and it's more and more important today, especially considering that the post-applied products aren't necessarily controlling all of those weeds due to weed resistance. So it really is a bit of a mix of savings and reinvestment that ultimately creates a better system for the farmer.
Because weed resistance is kind of a candle burning at both ends. I've talked about this before, where very, very difficult to get new products registered, challenging. We're also losing old products being taken off the shelf. Meanwhile, the weed resistance is expanding while the tools are shrinking. It's a real challenge for the farmer and innovators like BASF.
That's right. And so good news is longer term, as we talk about research and development, we have some new mode of action herbicides coming down the pipeline. We also have some traits and trait enablement with those new herbicides that will ultimately create new systems for farmers to combat weed resistance. So longer term, as we're talking in the early 2030s, 2032, there's new technologies on the horizon. But in the meantime, we have a lot of work to do. We have to think about those tools that we have in our arsenal, so to speak, and arranging those with all of the capabilities that we have to make sure that farmers have the best opportunity for profit, especially now.
Yeah, Neil, you never mentioned biologicals. Like, that's all I hear about is biologicals and the potential truth or pipe dream.
No, I think biocontrol opportunities, there are, BASF is one of the largest biological companies in terms of the seed treatments that we sell each and every day. So really helping those seeds spring out of the soil and make sure that they are as healthy as possible for those early season diseases, insects, and climatic situations that are existing. But ultimately, we're in that game looking for that breakthrough technology. We spend a lot of time thinking about biocontrol. We think about those markets where there is the highest level of impact for biologicals. Those are generally in the specialty crop markets, where you have pre-harvest interval, lower MRL, quicker export markets. These areas where there's opportunities really to have some breakthrough technologies, and we're treating those crops in less broad application and maybe more, let's say not niche, but more individual types of applications. And here we see the opportunity for those biologicals that are more sensitive to the environment, that need a little bit more care, that are part of a complete system to actually be part of that. And so we try to work with innovators and new organizations to bring those to the market and identify paths that are really complementary to the portfolio.
Yeah, complementary. You said that word because I think a lot of times when people talk about this, it's a substitute conversation, moving away from synthetic to biologicals. But I hear more and more people talking about that combo, that synergistic benefits of using both together.
Absolutely. It is that combination. And if we think of some of those specialty crops where you're using rotations with 4, 5, 6, 7 applications of different technologies, really you can start to work in a rotation of a high-performing biological in a way that helps the farmers not only meet the quality needs that they have for those particular crops, but also then the market needs that they're seeing from the consumers that want those. And so smart rotations, smart integrations, the complementary nature of those portfolios can really help out.
Great stuff. Well, hey, Neil, I really appreciate you joining us here today. Looking forward to being on a panel with you later on today at the Farm Voice event. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Sean.